And once again, no one getting into the Hall of Fame. Because of the pandemic, there were no winter meetings. Therefore, the Veterans Committee did not elect anyone. This is the first time there will not be a Hall of Fame class since 1960. So if you go back and take a look at what we've just learned, Curt Schilling gets 4 more votes than last year, so he's up a tick. Same can be said for Bonds and Clemens. Scott Rowland skyrockets. He was at 35.3% last year, up to 52.9% on this year's ballot. That's a boost. Omar Vizquel goes down 3.5% from last year. Billy Wagner also moves up. He was at 31.7% last year, up to 46.4%. Todd Helton gets a boost. I find this interesting. Gary Sheffield, Tom, goes up from 30.5 to 40.6 on this year's ballot.
Yeah, the big movers were, as I mentioned earlier, in the middle of the ballot. That's where I was looking at. And other than Vizquel, to me, Rowland, Wagner, Sheffield, Helton seem like they're making good progress. It was important that Tim mentioned it's a 10-year process.
Yeah. And
nobody can attest to that more than Larry Walker. It took him 10 years to get in. He came from way back in the pack in percentages down below 20% to be a Hall of Famer.
Again, more results, up about 5% for Jeff Kent, so he did move up. Manny Ramirez at 28.2%, exactly the same percentage from last year. Sammy Sosa at 17%, he's up about 3% from last year. Andy Pettitte kind of holding steady. Mark Burley debuts at 11% his first year on the ballot. Torrey Hunter at 9.5%, and these are the guys, Harold, you wanted to know who could get over 5%. These guys got to that threshold.
You know, that's a big thing, especially when you're looking at how the ballot is going to clean up here in a few years with a couple guys falling off at the end of their last year, so you never know how it's going to continue. And these guys right here, Greg, congratulations for even being on the ballot.
Yep, absolutely.
You know, there's been a number of guys here that worked with us that got on the ballot, and it's one of the greatest honors ever. They may not have got a vote, but they're on the Hall of Fame ballot.
Yeah.
But the story clearly is no one in this group.
Yeah, I want to check in with our friend Bob Costas for his reaction to this. No one gets in. Schilling, Bonds, Clemens, a tick up from last year, Bob. 14 blank ballots, the most ever. The previous high was 12 in 2006. Your reaction to what we just learned?
Well, those blank ballots are obviously protests about Schilling, Bonds, and Clemens. The early tracking had Bonds and Clemens, and for that matter, Schilling, up a bit higher than where they wound up. In fact, the early tracking, and that always overstates the case for the players that are on the bubble, that actually had it considerably overstated. Low 70s for Bonds and Clemens. They fall back now to the low 60s, just a small tick up from a year ago. Schilling needs 16 more votes. I think that's what was said a moment ago, between this year and next, his final season. I can't prove this. You can't read minds. And it doesn't have to be a whole lot of people for this to be the case. There might have been some people who said, look, Derek Jeter is universally popular. Curt Schilling, or for that matter, Bonds and Clemens on that stage with Jeter, Simmons, Walker, and whomever represents Marvin Miller would be discordant. But next year, with nobody else automatic besides those 3 on the basis of their playing credentials, we could have a rogues gallery ceremony in 2022. You could have Curt Schilling, you could have Barry Bonds, and Roger Clemens. And I'm not joking here. They could be the only 3 in their final year of eligibility. I'm not saying that a majority of voters would parse it that way, but you only need a small minority of voters to have looked at it that way. Combination of not wanting them to join the holdover class this time around, possibility of them being the only 3, for better or for worse, the next time around. And also some voters might have had the feeling, I'm going to let all of them twist in the wind until the very last year of eligibility. That'll be my semi-protest. And regarding Schilling, whose credentials are unquestioned, I would have thought, absent any other controversy, he would have been in long ago. I was talking to Al Michaels earlier. Al talked his way into the Hall of Fame, in effect. Curt Schilling may have talked and tweeted his way out of the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's mind-boggling to think that way. A terrific postseason pitcher, but he falls 16 votes short of enshrinement.